talk. It's, our goal through these forums is to eradicate the stigma around mental health, the shame that is associated with it, and everything, especially in our social setting, in our South Asian community, it's such a hush-hush topic that we never ever openly discuss it. It is such a common problem. 1 in 5 of us are dealing with a mental health disorder. So if we really look around, it's one of us or one person in our family. So we should be talking about it casually, just like we talk about physical health. Why is there a shame and why there is so much stigma? When our child has a broken leg, that illness is so glorified. You know, they make their friends sign their cast, they go to school with that, and they get all the love and attention. But it's not the same when the same child is dealing with depression or anxiety. And our vision through these forums is to eradicate the stigma and just break that cycle of shame forever. Make it a casual discussion at the table that, you know what, yesterday I was very anxious. I was just not feeling up to it. So that's our goal here. And hopefully in that process, we'll be able to help a lot of people, a lot of young people. I'm so proud of my young panel here, which includes Naomi and Shreya, who joined us last time as well. And today, I have a video clip from a senior at San Ramon High School who was not able to join today. She has struggled through some very serious mental health issues in her high school years, and she's sharing her experience. And we have Sanya, who is a senior struggling with her college apps, and she is going to talk a little bit about her college experience as well. So I will have the advocates do most of the talking because they are the ones, who the kids and, people can really connect to. So a little bit about myself. There was a question that came earlier on one of the discussions about my background. So I'm just going to tell you that I've been involved with the California education system for the last 20 years. I'm an educator at San Ramon Valley Unified School District, cognitive behavior therapy life coach, mental health advocate, and a first responder for mental health. I work very closely with National Alliance of Mental Health. And besides a couple of other degrees, I hold California teaching credentials and graduate certification in contemporary mental health counseling. Also the founder and director for Fair Chance for Special Needs organization. And the new foundation that we are coming up with, a nonprofit, a free organization, is called Wellbeing Solutions. And the goal of their solution is to provide support groups and community outreach to those who are dealing with mental health issues. So we are going to talk a little bit more about that. Shreya is going to touch upon that too. The issue that I briefly wanted to talk about today is loneliness. And when we say loneliness, we don't think anything big about loneliness, but loneliness is a public health epidemic. And studies show that stress from loneliness damages the body's immune system. And loneliness can be as harmful as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, or alcoholism, or obesity. So loneliness is a serious crisis in our society. And I'm not talking about loneliness as in being alone, because sometimes alone time is good, but I'm talking about the feeling of being connected. And we are social species by definition, and connection is very important. But in the superficial world that we live in, the superficial world of social media, that genuine human connection is missing at such a deep level. So Mother Teresa once said that loneliness is the most terrible poverty. So to belong and self-worth is the most important human need. To belong and self-worth is the most important human need. So what can we do about loneliness? How do we solve the problem? I found my answer in the quote by Mahatma Gandhi, which says the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. We spend so much money and time and on treatments and therapy, and nobody tells you that the best therapy is to find your purpose, find your community, belong, find your self-worth. Help a friend who's struggling with loneliness or mental health. Volunteer, feed a poor family, help fire victims, help a homeless person. Find that student who is hiding in the bathroom during lunchtime because he or she does not want to be labeled as a loser or as a nerdy kid who does not have a friend. Just imagine the feeling of going to a social gathering where you don't know people. It is scary, it is awkward, it is embarrassing, and all of that. So be compassionate, find that student, find that person who's pretending to be busy on their phone at a social gathering. And that will start by compassionate listening. And compassionate listening only happens when compassionate questioning occurs. Sometimes we are afraid to be too intrusive. So when we ask somebody, how are you doing? It should sound meaningful. And when the person responds, I'm okay, and we know that he's not, we should look them in the eye and say, no, I know you're not, let's talk. So that quality of interaction is missing in the world that we live in. And a lot of our anxiety is coming from there. So compassion, we could be surrounded by hundreds of friends, partying with them, drinking with them, but will that person be show compassion? Compassion is empathy in action. Does that person empathize with what we are going through, what we are dealing with? And compassionate listening happens when someone feels comfortable emptying his or her heart out to you without being judged. So let's work on finding our purpose and deal with loneliness and other mental health issues in our community. I will now have our panelists take over from here. First, I will introduce Naomi, who is here to talk about self-care. Naomi is in a graduate program studying to be a clinical psychologist. She's in a master's and PhD program. So Naomi, please introduce yourself if I have left out anything. And I understand you're talking about self-care today, right?
Hi, as Shirin Auntie already said, yes, I just started my PhD in clinical psychology, and I hope to pursue neuropsychology and a trauma focus. I have been struggling.
Naomi, can I interrupt? Can you
Yeah.
please increase your volume, please? Or maybe closer to the...
Okay. Sorry, I know this computer. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, much
thanks.
better now.
Okay. So sorry.
Thank you.
I know lately I've been struggling with self-care, especially starting a brand new chapter in my life with graduate school, and it's a completely different ball game. And so definitely can relate to that, but there are things that I still make sure to do. And some of the biggest things that I do for self-care is exercise. Definitely exercising, getting your body moving, eating properly is very important. Drinking enough water, just the basic necessities. If you start, for me, once I start neglecting those things, that's when I know that difficult feelings are going to arise. So making that conscious effort to continue taking care of yourself is really, really important. And it doesn't even have to be something very complicated, like eating the super healthiest food or like having like a 6 days a week exercise plan. It can just simply be going outside and taking a walk, walking your pets, walking with your family. I know with COVID, it's been very, very difficult, but still trying to take care of yourself during these times is still super important. I know that with restrictions opening up, I have been making the effort to socially distance and meet my friends. And even though it's not the same, it's really helped me. I don't feel as lonely anymore. And definitely making time to family time is also very, very important. Another thing that I recommend that everyone do is some sort of hobby of some sort. Like, and it doesn't, I mean, exercise, I feel like can be a hobby, but I feel like that's more something that everyone should do. But picking up some sort of different hobby, whether it be painting or writing or singing or just something completely different and new, even if you feel like you don't have the time for it, it's really, really important. And I know it definitely gets me out of that mindset of feeling alone and feeling, stressed out and things like that. Like lately I've been journaling, and even though I have so much homework, I make it a point to journal how I felt at the end of the day, how overwhelmed I felt with my homework, or how difficult the material was, or how I wish I could time manage better. And then I reread those things, and I always make sure to track like how I feel. And that's something I've learned from school, is just they actually tell you like graduate school is very, very difficult, especially in a psychology program. And even though we are learning about mental health and everything, it's still a very, very mentally tolling field. And so they always encourage us to write down our feelings, to talk about our feelings. And so you don't feel like so alone when you do that. So those are just some of the things that I've recommend. And
Great.
yeah, that's all.
So
That's
much,
all.
Naomi, and we'll come back to you for some more questions in the second round. I will thank you. Those were beautiful tips. I think self-care is the most underrated thing in mental health care, because we have to start from ourselves. We have to start from taking care of our hygiene and fitness, and all of those things are very important. So thank you. Moving on to you, Shreya. So, Shreya, I know you're ready to graduate from college, and for somebody in your situation has a lot going on. You have a lot on your mind in terms of what's going to happen next, what is coming up next, the job situation, and all of that. So, I would like you to introduce yourself first, and then tell us about some of the things that somebody your age, what are some of the things that are stressful, or things that cause anxiety to people in your situation, your age group?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Auntie. My name is Shreya. I'm a senior right now at Boston University. I'm studying. I'm in the business school, so I'm studying marketing. And like as Auntie said, there's a lot of uncertainty at this age. I feel like it's like the defining point really in your life. Like up until now, you've been told what to do. You go to high school, then everyone mostly like goes to college, but this is the first time in our lives that we kind of get to choose our path that we want to take. So to answer your question, I think there is so much uncertainty, especially given the time that we're in, that so many people my age, and I don't know, like really who's on the call and if this would help them or not, or if it would help their kids. But again, like I think the purpose of this is to be, it's a lot more casual. And so if anybody has like specific questions or something that they want to ask, like feel free to ask. But I can say from my experience, like the jobs in like school and stuff is also, it's like, I think that's a constant. I feel like that will happen regardless of me graduating or me not graduating. But like, just given the times and uncertainty, there's a lot of added pressure. So yeah, I don't know if that really answers your question. I know it was like in circles.
That's a great response, Shreya. So now, let's say somebody, is not coping as well as you are. You seem to be very, very, mature, put together. What kind of support is available for someone, who's already there? And, a lot of times these things are not discussed and talked about. So what are some of the support that is available at BU, or any information you have about other colleges?
Yeah, so I can't speak for every single college, but I can definitely confidently say that most colleges are going to have some sort of maybe not therapist, but some sort of mental health center designated because of the prevalence of how many kids really go through it. And by go through it, I don't mean like extreme anxiety or extreme depression. I mean like it can be very minimalistic as well, but it should be something that is addressed and taken care of. It's like, because if it's not addressed, I think it will definitely aggravate as time goes on. So I guess to answer your question, there most of the times are like resources available on campus that don't even require like outside insurance, because a lot of times therapists and psychologists like requires some sort of monetary compensation, but like within the school it covers with at least at BU, like it covers from the tuition. You don't even have to pay like the extra insurance through the school. And yeah, but apart from that, I think that sometimes a lot of the times really you don't necessarily want to go to a therapist or somebody that like is going to like a complete stranger that might like diagnose you or something. So a lot of times that even on campus there are peer health groups, peer mentor groups, as I think we'll introduce later on in this call, we're going to be introducing a well-being project that would access us as resources that you can reach out to us, either you or your kids or whoever, your friends, whoever you want to refer. And so I think the peer help groups are sometimes even better than therapists, because they're just people like you and me that are not licensed experts, that are not anybody who has the power to diagnose you or to say the right thing, but they are just normal people that sometimes all you really need is an ear, like someone to hear, someone to hear your concerns. So yeah, that's available as well on campus.
So no, that's really wonderful information, Shreya. Support groups, I feel with my experience of being, and on different high school campuses for 20 years, that that peer support is the most important piece, the most important thing that can help a student. Now, let me ask you something. So do young adults talk openly amongst each other if they are dealing with anxiety or depression? Is that something that's commonly discussed, or is it like among peer groups too? Is it a hush-hush topic, or is it something that's openly talked about?
Yeah, I think that definitely depends on, the type of person you are and the type of people that you surround yourself with. There's definitely people that are very, very shy about it, still, view it as something that's negative, that they don't want to talk about, they don't want to open up. I can say from experience that a lot of my friends have been, the same, like where they don't really feel comfortable talking about it because they'd rather bottle up their emotions because that's their way of coping. So I think, it depends really on your personality and the people you surround yourselves with. But as time goes on, I definitely do see an increase in awareness and an increase in basically like people wanting to open up, people wanting other people to open up, especially in college because of, you know, this is like, I think maybe actually, maybe high school was more stressful than college, but you know, regardless, it is really a stressful time. And so because of that, I feel like a lot of people are opening up. But there definitely can be, there's a lot of like growth for like improvement, and you know, small things, like for example this call, really like it starts small and then you like you act you think big and act small, right? So this is like a way of that.
Awesome, Shreya. Thank you so much for your input. And I'll ask you some more questions in our second round. And if the audience have any questions too, you know, please feel free to pitch in after we are done with our first round. So now I'll have Sanya introduce herself. She's a senior at high school, California high school, writing her college applications. And I know this pandemic has been the worst for high school students who have missed out on so much fun stuff. They have missed out on their prom. A lot of them who graduated earlier missed out on their graduation ceremony. And these kids do not know what is coming up next. So there is definitely a lot going on. So Sanya, do you want to quickly introduce yourself and tell us how mental health affects high school students?
Okay, hi. I think you pretty much covered it. My name's Sonia. I'm a senior at California High School. I'm applying to college right now, so that's like the major stress thing. As a psychology major, so mental health is definitely something I'm interested in. But yeah, in terms of how mental health affects high schoolers, I would say it's just a time of a lot of uncertainty, and I think that's evident now more than ever. You come into high school in a school of 3,000 other people you don't know. A lot of kids are trying to figure out what career they want to pursue. They're trying to figure out who their friends are. They're trying to get good grades, because I feel like a lot of people are conditioned to believe that high school makes or breaks which college you get into. So it's just a lot of pressure for teenagers especially. It's just a lot of uncertainty, and that can oftentimes lead to a bunch of anxiety. So yeah, that's the main way I see it affecting teenagers.
So what advice do you have? What is available, let's say, for somebody like a freshman who's brand new or sophomore? What is their best, should be their best coping mechanism, best way to cope if they're dealing with stress or anxiety or just seem lost on campus?
So I think one of the most harmful things I hear a lot of times from other teenagers is this idea that, you know, other people have it worse, or that, you know, I come from a well-off family, I live in San Ramon, externally my life should be perfect, and they invalidate their own feelings by telling themselves that they're just being overdramatic, or that their mental health isn't a real problem. So a lot of times people will be afraid to ask for help or feel like they don't need it. But one of the things I have found most helpful throughout the entire high school process was having a good support system. So for me, this starts like mostly with my friends, and this isn't the same friend group that I came into high school with. And I think changing that and finding out like who my people are, like where my community is, that caused me a lot of like anxiety. But once I had that, it made everything seem fine. I know like junior year is typically, you know, labeled as the most stressful year of your high school experience. But because of the friend group that I was able to establish, it didn't seem that bad. Additionally, like having a good relationship with your family. I know for a lot of kids and their parents, it's hard because your parents grew up in one world and you're growing up in another. But I think communication is the first step to like create that understanding for each other. And I think it takes compromise on both sides. Lastly, I would say in the school environment, I would like, you need an adult that you can rely on. So for me, that was my AP US history teacher last year. There was a period of school where I just didn't want to go. Like, I would always text my parents, can I please like come home? I'm just not feeling up to it. And he pulled me out of class one day and he asked, like, are you okay? Like, what's going on? And I started crying. But it's just really important to know that there's adults looking out for you that want to see you succeed, and that the world isn't against you. Like, there's people behind you and that are going to support you. So definitely creating a good relationship with your teachers. Or I know at Cal High, we have a wellness center. We have a bunch of, support counselors, and we have a licensed psychologist. So if you ever need anyone to talk to, those people are always there as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Sanya.
Shirin, Auntie, can I just kind of like put my input in and everything?
Absolutely, absolutely. Feel free to pitch in. Shreya, you too, wherever you have to.
Yeah. So, I obviously I can't speak for Shreya or Sanya, but definitely agree with all of that. And now I'm actually, getting a PhD in the mental health field because of my passion to, educate, especially our community on mental health. And a lot of things that I've learned in school and my own experiences, in our community, it's still very hush hush. And I went through my own mental health struggles. I won't get into that, but it's something that has shaped who I am. And it was a very serious time in my life. And I'm here and I'm getting a PhD now. And I never thought I would be able to do that. But I think it's really important that these struggles are real, and some people are less sensitive than others, and they're able to, say, pull yourself up by the bootstraps or whatever, or just kind of like push it under the rug. But there are lots of people that are not able to do that, and I wasn't one of those people. And I did not have support. I didn't have support for years and years and years until now. And I think the point of me coming here to talk, is to just, tell everybody that your kids can struggle, you can struggle. There are lots of, hidden signs of like mental health issues, and we are so set on, grades and like money and like looking a certain way in our, community, like, oh, like this person is doing this, so you should do that. And we don't realize how damaging that is to our kids and how much pressure. And there are lots of very intelligent kids that, they're just naturally intelligent, and they're able to succeed like that. I wasn't one of them. I struggled in like high school, in college. I flunked my first year of college because I didn't know what I was doing, but now I'm getting a doctorate. So it really doesn't matter, like what grade you get in chemistry or what AP classes you're taking. And I know that mentality for parents and kids is really hard to come out of. And Shirin, Auntie, when I was working at Fair Chance, and I was working with all those volunteers at Fair Chance, a lot of them were still in that mindset, and it put me back when I was 15 years old. And I was like, they were like, oh my God, I have to take AP this, AP that. I have to get into Berkeley to get engineering or tech or whatever, to have this perfect life that your parents are pushing onto you. And I wish I could just tell everybody easily that it really doesn't matter. That stuff doesn't matter. What matters right now is your mental health and your happiness. And like, even though we all want our kids to succeed, it all comes from a place of love. And, I held a lot of like resentment towards my parents for pushing me to do math and science, and I was never a math and science person. And but that's not their fault. That's what they know. That's what we know as a community. And I think that like this push on like education is very important, but it's also, it can be damaging. So I think parents need to understand that sometimes kids just can't take the pressure, and to be able to recognize if your child is one of those kids that's not topping all their classes, that's not able to do all the homework, that's becoming more isolated, that's, you know, feeling more sad, irritable. A lot of teenagers express their depression, anxiety, and irritability, and, you know, tantrums and breakdowns. And if you see that in your child and you realize that they're just too pressured, it's okay to take some of that off. Because again, did I think I was never really that smart? And, you know, I'm gonna be a doctor eventually, but it just takes some time for a kid to like really figure out who they are. And I think we just need to support that our kids are individual, and they're not always gonna be math, science, tech, engineering, doctor people. They just aren't. And I think we just have to, you know, like forget about what other people are going to think, and think about your child and think, okay, maybe if my kid is coming to me and they're crying and they're saying that it's just too much pressure, okay, it's okay to let that pressure, and like be mindful of like comparing your kids. You know, I was compared a lot to my cousins, people in the community. Oh, this kid is doing this kid is doing this, blah 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 blah. If we're mindful, because that was damaging to me, and now I still compare myself. And even though I'm trying not to do that, we should, you know, like parents need to realize that comparing your kids to another kid is super damaging, because it's like, okay, you're saying that they're better than me and they're smarter than me, and I'm never going to be smart, and I'm never. And even though, again, it's from a place of love, it's not necessarily the best tactic for everybody. So I just, you know, want to speak out and just say that like parents and kids, they need to communicate with each other. You know, I know it all comes from love on both sides, but just it's okay. Like, it's okay to take the pressure off. You know, your kids are going to turn out fine. Like, everyone turns out fine in the end, you know? It doesn't matter like how many AP classes you're taking. It really doesn't, you know? And if that's going to be more tolling on your kids' mental health, then like what is the benefit of that? You know, those classes were originally there for people who felt like they wanted a challenge. And now it's like this competition, and it's this race of like, how many AP classes can I take? It shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be like that. Like, because somebody is taking all regular classes, they're like not as smart as the person taking all AP classes. Well, what about that kid who's taking 7 AP classes and they're like so mentally exhausted before life even begins? Because I'm in graduate school, and like nothing could have prepared me for graduate school, but I feel like I have the maturity and the coping skills to get through it, and I'm passionate about it. But if you're putting a 16-year-old in in like 7 AP classes, they mentally, some more times than not, they're not able to mentally get through it. Yeah. So I just want to say, like, it's just, I know you want your kids to do well, and they are going to do well. They are so going to do well. Everyone is going to do well. We just all have to be supportive and like think about what's more like important, like my child's happiness and sanity versus like getting a 4.5 GPA. Like, you know what I mean? So I think that's that's like where I'm at with everything. And once, you know, we as a community like start to understand that, and as generations go further and further, I think like you know, this pressure will hopefully, you know, ease. And yeah,
That's the whole point of starting this conversation, Naomi. And you know, it's so refreshing to hear it from you as a person who's gone through it all, and the end result is so good. So that can relax somebody like Sanya or Shreya or other parents who are here on this forum today, other high school kids, that you know, taking those 7 AP classes as a 16-year-old is not the goal. The goal is for the child to be happy. And it's so important to check with them once in a while. What are you doing during lunchtime? Who are you hanging out with? Or to have a balance, at least where one parent is more about their emotional health and happiness, and the other parent is maybe more on academics. So that balance is so important. Shreya, if you have to pitch in anything here, feel free to talk, or Sanya, whoever wants to go. Shreya, I know you have something on this. I know you want to talk about your high school experience, or anything that you want to share is fine.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like, I think, you know, what Naomi said was 100% true. I think it's so important to have that balance, but also, you know, a lot of people in high school, especially, deal with so many social issues as well as the academic pressure. And I know that I dealt with both, you know, and, you know, Srinati's intro about loneliness and, you know, having that kind of need for people and belonging, right? Like that hierarchy of needs is very important. Unfortunately, like, my high school experience wasn't like that, and I don't know if everybody else is here on there, like, that's great, but I know that it's okay to not have that sense of belonging, really, because, you know, you're like trying to figure out who you are as a person, and then you're like put into this cluster of people that you don't really know. And some people, I guess, aren't just that, like, aren't don't get that lucky with, you know, friends and social situations. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that, um although it might be daunting, like, in those years that you know, maybe don't have that, like, strong sense of belonging, and, like, friends, I think, like, in that age, really, they tend to change a lot, because, you know, you're trying to figure out who you are and who you want to be surrounded with. um but I'm saying that it gets better in the future. And so I think that people really, you know, and I know this from experience, from my personal experience, as well as a lot of other people in high school that have, like, now gone to college, have completed their, like, degree and stuff. Really, I think social anxiety, social issues are a lot more prevalent in high school than they are in college. So, you know, I don't know if anybody on this call is in high school, or if their kids are in high school, and if they're dealing with that kind of um, lack of belonging. It's, yeah, um, it does, like, you know, get better in the future. Also, I just want to add on to one really quick thing. Something that Sanya said about, like, you know, invalidating your feelings because you think they're not real. And I think that that's something that I've noticed so much in my, you know, friend circle, in my age group, like, that people, you know, think that having an issue, their issue isn't justified because they didn't go through some, you know, tragedy, or they didn't face a really big hardship, and therefore they shouldn't be feeling like this. Like, why can't you just, you know, be happy if you have everything? You know, you're in good health, you have a good family, you have good friends, you have a good life. Like, why should you feel like this? And I think that that's so important to address, because it's, and I'm guilty of this as well, right? Like, so many times I think to myself, well, I shouldn't be feeling like this because I have everything going on in life. But I think part of the problem really is to steer away from that, and to think that, like, you know, you are, you're allowed to feel what you're feeling. And just because your life may look good on the outside may not actually feel good on the inside, for whatever reason that it might be. So I think that that's so important. And I think a lot of times, you know, the path to healing really is halted if you don't even validate your feelings to begin with. Just because you might think they're minuscule is not a reason to mitigate that or to make it feel like it doesn't deserve to be felt.
Very well said, Shreya. Thank you so much. I think our listeners here who ever parents or, you know, the meeting is also being, the session is also being recorded. So hopefully a lot of high school and college kids and those who are in grad program can benefit from all of this great things that you're sharing, these great information that you're sharing. Sanya, do you have to pitch in, and then we'll have open it to questions if people have any questions. Do you want to pitch in?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So going off of what Naomi said, she said a lot about like AP classes, and like we're conditioned to believe that you know, taking all these APs means that we're going to be successful. But I think that if you come into high school, like for everyone, high school is supposed to be a time where you discover yourself. You're going to change a lot. Your friend groups are going to change a lot. Your interests are going to change. What you want to do, like career-wise, is going to change. But for a lot of kids, myself included, it was like, I'm going to take all these hard classes in high school. I'm going to be a doctor. These are my friends. And I came in with a very like set mindset, like everything planned out. This is what my high school is going to look like. This is what my future is going to look like. And I feel like because of that, I was really disappointed with myself a lot because I didn't accept that change. And it impacted me very negatively because of that mindset that I was in. Also on the topic of like comparing ourselves, I know a lot of times like your parents will say, oh, why'd your friend get a better score than you? But I think for me at least, it was also an individual thing that I did to myself. I would look at the people around me, if they got better scores, if they were smarter, if like I didn't look like them. And I think that that's evident through social media too, like looking at people, comparing yourself always. And it's very detrimental to your mental health. And I think you need to take a step back, practice self-care, and be like, it's important that I'm happy and that I'm doing what I love, and just worry less about like the physical stuff and what other people are doing.
Wonderful, Sanya. So, you know, the word is, or the phrase I should say, you are enough. So just that, you know, if you start believing that whatever we are doing, whatever we are is enough, that is really good for our mental health. So it's 6:45 now, and I had a video clip, but I think I'll save it for the next session. I will open it to questions. If anyone has any questions for our beautiful panelists here, or if there is anything that I can answer, please go ahead. You can unmute yourself and please go ahead and ask a question if you have one. Okay, I see a raised hand. Okay.
Hi, Shirin, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Hi, Shirin. This is Neeti Maddock, and I have a question for the panelists. And, you know, coming from anyone, I would be grateful for some guidance here. As a mom of a junior at high school, what are some strategies that you would recommend for a parent to guide a teenager that is trying to balance academic rigor, extracurricular activities, and a healthy social life? So I would appreciate any pointers on that.
That's a great question, and one of you can take that question. You're all experts in that, Shreya or Naomi. Naomi, you want to take that?
Yeah. I was just gonna say that, you know, I think you should sit down with your child and just ask them, like, how are you feeling right now with all this stuff? Like, how's the academics going? How are the extracurriculars going? How are friends going? You know, opening up that conversation and being like, if you're feeling too pressured, that's okay. We can cut back on something. And if your kid, you know, says, no, like, I need to do this for college. I need to like get, you know, this is my future, blah, blah. Just, you know, be as supportive, but also tell them like your happiness is more important, and just reassure them that, you know, it's okay to not do everything at once. And if they're feeling too pressured, that we can always take something up later, and, you know, it doesn't, like, it's gonna be okay. So I think just opening up that conversation and just talking to your child and being like, how are you doing with all of this going on? And, you know, encourage them to be as honest as possible. They might not be as honest in the beginning. They might say, no, I'm fine. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. That helps a lot.
Just something like, just a reminder to, oh, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just like, okay. Just remind them that you'll love them and you'll support them regardless, because I feel like that's something a lot of kids forget. They'll get so caught up, whether it be like parental pressure, their own like internal drive, they'll forget that they're still going to be worthy, they're still going to be valuable regardless of how well they do academically right now.
Okay, sounds good. Sanya, you know Dia, my daughter, so you know she's a junior, and I kind of see the same struggles that all of you've gone through when you were juniors. So as a parent, I'm there to support my child, and you know, it's great to hear from the younger peers and you know, from the younger generation as to what we, coming from a different world, who haven't grown up here or haven't gone to school here, can help the youngsters here as they face you know, their academia here. So thank you. That helps a lot. Thank you for all the beautiful perspective.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Feel free to pick their brains. We have some great panelists here.
Or you don't even have to have a question. You can just introduce yourself if you'd like.
Should we ask everybody to introduce themselves? Is what you said, Shreya?
No, I just said you don't even have to have a question. You can just introduce yourself if you'd like.
Okay. Yes.
I had a question. When you're feeling down, or when it's a friend who's not being a good friend, or whether it's a pressure from school or pressure from parents, and you are kind of in a funk and just want to be locked in the room, what do parents do at that point? How do parents help you? Or is there a way, or time is the biggest healer? Like,
no, there is definitely a way. Yeah, I have seen my child go through that time and it's the most painful thing for a parent. And as an educator, I've seen so much of that going on high school campuses where the two teenagers are not getting along well. And it's a very painful thing to watch as a parent, but you know, so letting them grieve a little bit about it is not bad, because one thing that we want our youth to learn is problem solving. And it's good to intervene if it seems like a serious, a damaging thing. But if it's to the point where you think they can problem solve and resolve their conflict with their friend and resolve it, then you know, by all means go ahead. But if it's damaging to the point that it's interfering with their mental health, then we have to intervene. We can talk to their counselor. Every child has a school counselor, and there are also support counselors. But if that grief continues for a few days, I would highly advise to seek the help. So every school has a counselor, which is your alphabetical counselor. And then you also have a support counselor. Support counselor is the mental health counselor. So every school has a a mental health counselor that the student can reach out to. And the best way to start is contact your school counselor, the child's counselor, and tell her that, you know, this is what my child is going through. This conflict is causing her a lot of anxiety, and I want an adult to intervene and resolve this. That would be a really good way to address it if it doesn't get resolved on its own. But I will have Sanya, you want to talk a little bit about that? How I know you guys have all gone through that in your high school years, but since you're in high school, how would you deal with something like that? That's like a professional point of view, but you can talk about from a student's point of view.
Yeah, I definitely think like fights with friends or with family are some of the most like harmful things to your mental health, because they're your support system. And if you feel like you don't have that foundation, then it's like everything else starts to fall, right? Because I feel like academic stress is almost tolerable if you do have a really strong and really good support system. So I would say it's definitely tricky from a parent's point of view, like how to navigate that. But I think reminding your child that there's resources for them, that there's people that they can talk to, even when it feels like none of their friends are talking to them, or if they have no like peers to talk to, there are adults, there are licensed professionals that they can reach out to. And it doesn't necessarily even mean you're going to go get a diagnosis for like a mental health disorder. It just means you need help in that moment. You need someone to talk to in that moment. And that is 100% okay.
Yeah, we just don't want that to become a chronic thing where the child is not coming out of the room for days and then doesn't want to go to school. So, you know, the best way to solve is like have an organic solution to the problem without intervening a professional. But if it's coming to the point where the child is in distress, then we absolutely should involve professional.
Okay. Sanya, you, for example, since you're a high schooler, and if you go through these ups and downs, does your parents talking to you help, or if you have siblings talking to you help, or is it more with talking to friends that help? Like, what is your take?
For me personally, I would say my friends are like the first people I'll go to if something's like wrong, just because these are the people that I'm in classes with. These are the people that are like going through the same stuff I'm going through right now in terms of like high school, in terms of academics, college apps and stuff like that. And then I think if a problem is really serious, the next people I'll go to are my family. So when I'm fighting with my friends, that's often like a really hard time for me because I don't have those people. But I think definitely try and build a good relationship with your child, because if they have a problem in their social life and they don't feel they can come to you and talk about that, then they really have no one at that point. And that could be really, you know, bad for them. I think my parents do a really good job of just like talking to me about how my day goes. Every time I go out with friends and come back, they always ask like, how was it? Or like after school, they'll ask like, how was your day? How were your classes? We always eat like lunch together now and like dinner. So just a lot of family conversation, and like my brother talks about, you know, his day and stuff like that. So I think that definitely like opens the conversation. If you want to talk, if your child wants to talk, you're there and you're willing to listen.
Thank you, Sanya. Looks like Tanya has her hand.
Thank you so much. Before I go, I just had one comment. These girls are absolutely amazing. They are so well spoken, so easy to talk to, so good in the way they are expressing themselves. You girls are really, really amazing, and great role models. So keep it up.
Thank you, Nita. Thank you so much for joining us today. And you know, we have a nonprofit, a group that these girls are all part of. So they can be reached anytime. I'm going to share their emails in just a minute, and they have all offered to be part of that group where your child can reach out to them directly. They don't even have to come through me. And they are not, I know Naomi is very close to being one, but the others are not like trained in any regard, but they are great peer group and great support group. So um, I will have Tanya, ask the question, and then I'll share that information with you, their emails and where they can be reached or where I can be reached. Okay, Tanya, go ahead.
Hi, it wasn't a question. I just wanted to chip in and add that I think that parents can really set the tone for like the importance of mental health. And I know that in some households, if mental health isn't looked upon as a priority, that can really negatively impact like the student as they're going through high school. So I think that like as a parent, there is a lot you can do. And most of that comes from just emphasizing that mental health is important and that you really truly value your child's mental health over like their grades or their success. And I think that that's like something, a really positive force that like shouldn't be that as a parent it's a really good thing to think about that. But I also agree that you guys are doing really amazing, both Shreya and Naomi. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job,
And Sonia.
and I really learned a lot.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you so much for that nice comment. Okay, before people take off, I wanted to share that information.
Yeah, and Shirin, if you can give me 2 minutes also, that would be great.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Okay, people can take a quick screenshot of what I'm going to sorry, not this. Okay, so they're here. Okay, here are the emails, and these girls have volunteered to provide support, so feel free to reach out to them. Okay. Okay, Vanita, it's all yours. I'll go ahead and stop sharing now. Okay.
Thank you, Shirin, and thank you all. This was very informative, and definitely mental health is a big issue, and I think we need to spread the word that, you know what, it's just like a headache. We just need to take care of it, and it's okay to talk about it. So thank you. And just wanted to share a little bit about ICC Tri-Valley. We started 6 months ago, but I think we've achieved a lot in the last 6 months, and now we want to Karuna, can you screen share, please?
Of course.
I'm having some issue here. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we have a membership model now moving November.
Can you guys see it?
No,
Are we
not
able
yet.
to see that? No?
No, you need to screen share, Karuna.
Yeah, I'm just doing that.
So, yeah, you know what? We have a membership model where we encourage members to join us. It's $49 per month per family. And we've got loads of classes. There's singing, there's music, there's dance, there's art, yoga, meditation. And if there's something you're looking for, you know what, you tell us, we'll get the class going. I mean, we really want to be there for the community and help them in any way we can. And we have to pay our instructors, and that's why we have a membership model. But we also have wonderful people like Shirin, where they give their time, and we've got some free sessions like mental health and gardening and some other ones also.
I will never charge you guys, don't worry. We will never charge you guys. But yeah, for other classes, definitely.
You need to share your just the photograph.
But this is such a great platform. I agree.
Aruna, can I just see the
Okay,
photograph?
I think you guys are able to see that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
That's can stop sharing the screen, Karuna. That's fine. Thank
Okay,
you.
can I stop that?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
So yeah, if you have any questions, you know what, send us an email, give me a call. We'd love to talk to you, connect with you, and see how we can help you. And it's all teamwork, right? So we can do this together.
Well, thank you for providing this platform, and ICC Travel is wonderful. So I would like to thank the panelists and all the audience here, all the people who joined. So thank you so much, Naomi, Shreya, Sanya, Lily, who's another high school student, was not able to join us today. I will share her video next time, because she very passionately made that video to be shared with everyone. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, but we will do it next time. So thank you so much, all of you, for being here.
Thank you, Shirin, and all the panelists. This was amazing. This was a lot of educational things. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for
Thank you, Tanya,
Thank
for
you,
your
everyone.
comment.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.